What's up, guys? It's JZNES back again. We're doing another video. Today we got Metal Gear Rising Revengence here. Now, listen to that title. That just tells you everything we're in for, right? Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. Just take that in for a second. Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. Not even Metal Gear Solid Rising Revengeance. This is Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. They wanted you to know this shit's gonna be as disconnected from the Metal Gear Solid series as possible. You know, don't go in expecting fucking Solid Snake. Don't even go in expecting Metal Gear Solid 2, you know? Just fucking go in expecting Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. Revengeance. That's a word that they made up, by the way. That's not a real word. Revengeance. And as far as I realize, that's not even like revenge or revengeance. I don't even know what that means, but that's not even like part of the game. This guy just loves being in the spotlight. He comes into every video. That's alright. I like having him there. Anyway, yeah. It's pretty ridiculous. And that's the whole game in a nutshell. Pretty ridiculous. But, you know, is that a bad thing? No, not necessarily. I think, ridiculous can be good if that's what you're going for. And this game was certainly going for that. And I appreciate that. You know, I was saying to my friends the other day, like, sometimes you just need a game to go full Metal Gear Rising where, you know, they don't give a shit. They know how silly they're being and they just go for it, you know? So that's cool. I like that. Yeah, so it's an enjoyable enough game in its ridiculousness, I would say. But, you know, you go in, you can't expect Metal Gear Solid, because Metal Gear Solid is one of the greatest franchises of all time. I've reviewed the Twin Snakes, which is a game I do want to kind of mention a little bit here, because the Twin Snakes, as I mentioned in that review, or that analysis, or that comparison to the original, the Twin Snakes is ridiculous on a level that it destroyed a game that was already in existence. You know, this game wasn't a game before this. This always was just this game, and that's it, you know? But they didn't. This wasn't a remake of some fucking game in the Metal Gear Solid series that they'd, like, done before, but with, like, swordplay or something. That would have been even worse. Think about that. Whereas, Metal Gear Twin Snakes, Solid's Twin Snakes, you go in with some expectations because the original Metal Gear Solid was such a groundbreaking game, and, you know, there was a lot of funny moments, of course, but they always knew when to take themselves seriously as well. There was a lot of very serious scenes and emotional stuff going on there, and then that's all just kind of ruined by all these mistakes that Twin Snakes had made. Because it had all these, like, anime cutscenes where they're just jumping in the air and Snake jumps on bullets and or missiles and shit to, like, get a better shot at Metal Gear, or he just, like, runs and jumps at Metal Gear like that's gonna do something or whatever. But, like, this game, like, Raiden does stuff like that, not as bad as any of that, but like with a purpose. He's a fucking cyborg, you know, basically, and he's got, like, a sword that can cut through fucking anything. So, like, when he's going in there doing all this ridiculous shit, at least he's confident enough to know that he can do something. Snake's not always in that position, and even when he is in the original Twin Snakes there, Metal Gear Solid the Twin Snakes, not the original game, but the Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes remake there, when he's doing all this ridiculous shit, you're like, well, no, he's just a guy. Like, he's a good soldier, but he shouldn't be able to do all this stuff, you know? He's not fucking Neo or something from the Matrix. He's just some guy. But, like, Raiden in this game isn't just some guy anymore. He's a cyborg, and he's fucking, he can do anything, you know, kind of thing. And so, what's the greatest thing to put up against him? Well, a million bazillion, like, fucking batshit insane things, like entire Metal Gears. Like, one of the first fights you do in the game is a Metal Gear Ray, a thing that Raiden had to fucking use missile launchers and multiple fucking missiles, tons of fucking missiles to take down even one Ray before, and he was struggling, and he had to fight, like, what, 24 or 5 of them or something like that? in the original game, and that took him forever. But right in here, he's just like a few minutes, he's got that thing cut up like it's smoked sausage or whatever. It's just like, fuck, man, like this is ridiculous, but it's awesome. It's a lot of fun to do that, but it's just, you could kind of see where I'm going with this. You can't take this as seriously as a Metal Gear game because it's not meant to be. That's why they dropped the Solid and they just made it Metal Gear Revengence, Rising Revengeance, or whatever. I don't even know what the Rising's all about either, but you get the idea. So, going on that, in terms of story and whatnot, like, this game, you're not here for the story, alright? Like, the story's pretty ridiculous. There are some callbacks to the Metal Gear games, like, Sonny shows up at the very end for, like, a few minutes, and it's like, oh, okay. And then, like, they kind of expand a little bit on, like, Raiden's childhood or whatever, and that's kind of cool. That's some of the better story bits. There's a moment where, one of the bosses kind of like lets you like Psycho Mantis style listen into some of the soldiers' minds, and they're all like against doing what they're doing, but they're like their emotions are suppressed through the nano machines or whatnot. Which I thought they took out because it wasn't that part of the Sons of the Patriots program, but this game doesn't know about all that. I mean, it mentions that, but like, you know, it doesn't care about all of the grand epic storyline from Metal Gear Solid 4. It knows about it, and it certainly plays on the after effects of that, which is probably the weakest element of the entire game. Is just that they're trying to piggyback off of the definitive ending to a story that was Metal Gear Solid 4. You could almost see that as another level of ridiculous, though. Like, there was no way they were going to continue the story, but like they did anyway because, you know, like. But it kind of does take a little bit of the emotional climactic feel away from the Metal Gear Solid 4 ending. I'm not saying it ruins Metal Gear Solid 4's ending or anything. I'm just saying, like, you don't want to connect these things in your mind because they shouldn't be connected. They're not meant to be connected. That's why I think it's almost a weak element that they even tried to connect this anyway. Like, they should have just done their own thing, like kind of briefly mentioned that it was after 4, not like really put that as part of the themes and whatever, but it's like a big part, it's kind of like a big part of the little bit of story that there is here, so it just kind of feels like it's kind of slapping that game in the face, which is kind of a fucking bad thing for me, because it's like, that's one of my favorite games, you know, is Metal Gear Solid 4, it's my third favorite game, so you know, I wasn't super offended by it or anything. It just kind of like how, you know, some of the other, like, games after Metal Gear Solid 3, they do a good job of expanding. I do like Peace Walker and Portable Ops and stuff, but they're not always super consistent with, like, Metal Gear Solid 3, you know, and, like, the parts where they bring back, like, the boss and stuff is just, like, it's kind of like, it's like, do we really need to do this again? Like, I don't know, it worked well enough, but, you know, Peace Walker is a whole fucking different bullshit story thing, so maybe I'll talk about that sometime, who knows. But anyway, so, you know, take the story, chuck it aside, just take it for what it is, a funny little romp of, you know, funny things. And I think the other thing is that there was too much, like, fucking dialogue between the codec crew or whatever, like, 'cause I never called them on the codec or anything. I know there was some codec conversations that I missed about, like, Rose and Raiden's kid or whatever, you know, kind of his ending for Metal Gear Solid 4 there, which was pretty definitive, by the way, and then he, like, sorry, slight spoilers for the ending of Metal Gear Solid 4, but he becomes a human again, and then now he's a cyborg again, and then at the end of Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, he's a human again. It's like, what the fuck is going on here? What kind of technology is this? Like, I want to know. This is ridiculous shit. But, yeah, it's just kind of funny. Anyway, but, so, yeah, so, like, chuck the story aside. Nobody cares about that. What's cool about this game is obviously the gameplay and, even, like, the music and the, you know, graphics and the environments. They hold up, you know, all of that stuff. So, obviously the gameplay is, like, the top notch of all of that, it's a lot of, you know, slashing and all of that kind of stuff, and you've got this cool system where you like slow down time, you get to like cut up your enemies and shit, and that's pretty awesome. You know, it's fucking ridiculous, but that's this whole game in a nutshell, like I said. So, you know, you have all of that. You have like a ninja run, and you can like slide around and stuff. And like, the funny thing is, like, 98% of the time, if I wasn't like trying to cut up an enemy, or if it was like specifically I wasn't able to do this for some reason, like I was ninja running by pressing R. So it just feels like that almost should have been like maybe a default speed or something. I don't know. It worked well enough, but like it's cool. That works. And then you have like a slide move you can do, and you have like a parry move, like a block and with square and whatever. So it's all good stuff. It's like a, you know, it's a pretty simple system of just like, you know, basic sword stuff, but it makes you feel like you're riding, you're there. This is what we all kind of wanted after Metal Gear Solid 4, after we saw him take down a bunch of geckos or whatever. We're like, yeah, this is badass. We're playing as this fucking old guy. What the fuck, Kojima? But that was kind of the point of that, was everyone wanted to play as Snake again. After Metal Gear Solid 1, and then Metal Gear Solid 2, you got Snake again. He's there, but you can't play as him as much. You play as him at the beginning, and it's just like a teaser, you know? So everyone wanted to play Solid Snake again, but Kojima didn't want, you know, the players to... He was kind of done with Snake's story or whatever, so he figured the best way was to kind of be definitive and end it, you know, and so... You know, so then he gives Raiden the boost, the one that everyone hated, you know, a character that he had a lot of, he really wanted to take off because it was such a surprise that you played as Raiden for half of Metal Gear Solid 2, well, more than half, like 80% of that game or whatever you play as Raiden, which was like one of the greatest, like, twists of all time, is that you're not playing as Snake for the whole game, and, it's really interesting when you hear about why that is because it's like, you, as Raiden, get to see Solid Snake from a new angle, so the player gets to see Solid Snake being a badass, and that was kind of the whole point of you playing as Raiden, was to make Snake even cooler, you know, at a level, because Raiden's just kind of like a dork. But then when you get to Metal Gear Solid 4, he's the badass, and Snake is too, but he's really aged, you know, so he's definitely not quite as capable as he used to be, you know, which some players are disappointed by, and then the whole joke is that Kojima put Cyborg Raiden in there to be like a badass, so it's just like the opposite, you know, like it's kind of come full circle, which is awesome, and I like that. That's such a good subversion of expectations. Sorry, I'm not wearing the Last Jedi shirt for that trope this time, but I am wearing this awesome shirt that my friend got me. The Les Enfants Terribles project, you know, from Metal Gear Solid 1 there. So, yeah, so like, but anyway, so my point is, we all wanted to play as Raiden, as the cyborg, and that's what we've got here, you know, and it feels just as satisfying as you'd probably want it to be, you know, and the enemies are actually, like, capable of holding you back a little bit. Some of them are, like the ones with the hammers and the geckos and stuff kind of pose a threat. There's some other enemies in there that are pretty capable of holding you back. All the bosses are pretty resilient, so you definitely get your time there to kind of really figure out your moves and whatnot, and like really get into the combat and whatever. So you can also get like you get weapons from each of the bosses that you can use as like your secondary weapon. And, I can't, I'll be honest, I never figured out exactly, like, what button combinations, really did what to, like, bring out the secondary weapon or the first weapon. I would always just kind of ninja run around, and then, you know, parry when I needed to, and then do the other, you know, just kind of go between, square and triangle there, because those are the two attack buttons. And because that's what the game told me to do at the beginning of the game, and you know, so I do that, and then just kind of try to exploit the weakness of the enemy and all that stuff, and just kind of run and, you know, dodge and weave through attacks and stuff. That worked pretty well for me. Of course, I played on easy or whatever, because that's just what I do, you know. I'm not like a seasoned action game veteran or anything, so like these kind of games, like these Platinum game kind of games. Yeah, by the way, Platinum Games made this. A lot of people know them for the Bayonetta series and whatnot, but they made this at one point, so that's interesting. Um, so yeah, like gameplay is really fun, and it definitely doesn't overstay its welcome because the game is so short that like there's no way it can overstay its welcome. I think I beat this game in like 5 hours or some shit. Like it's ridiculous. Like the last two levels are not very long at all. Like the actually even the fifth level isn't very long if I remember correctly. Like it's one of the longer levels, but like literally level 6 out of 7 is just a boss fight, and that's it. And then it's just like, oh, that level's over, I guess. So it's not disappointing that it wasn't longer, but like there's definitely some room for like potential growth here to have had extra content and whatnot. And there wasn't a lot of branching paths or any of that kind of stuff. It's a pretty linear romp through through the game there, and so it's like, oh, okay, that's fine and everything. I like short games, and I think that it's to the game's benefit. It didn't want to overstay its welcome, and it knew what it was doing, and it knew what it was, and whatever. So, I can appreciate that. Just get done what you need to do your concept, and just get through it, and that's fine. And they did that, and that's good. Um, I guess I want to talk about what was my initial reaction to this game back in the day before I start talking about some of the other like more minor things about the game. Because the gameplay is like the biggest part. Like all the other stuff is like that. It's all comparable. It's all fine. It all works pretty well. Back in the day, like we were kind of turned off by the fact that they were making this Rising Revengence thing. Like we were excited, I remember, but then like the whole thing was the story was that it was supposed to be the gap between Metal Gear Solid 2 and 4, where Raiden goes and saves Sonny from the Patriots or whatever. And I'm kind of glad that they didn't do that, because this game doesn't seem like it would have been very well suited to the to the Metal Gear Solid like series, so story wise. So I'm just like kind of glad that they didn't make it like a real canon bit. It's just kind of like a thing after the ending of 4, so you don't really necessarily have to think of it as canon, even though it like technically is, I guess. Like you can just kind of cut it off, and 4 has a good enough ending to where that's just an ending, and that's fine. And you never really have to wonder what happened to Raiden, because they close up his story in 4. It's great. But so yeah, like we were excited, I remember, but I was always kind of thinking and hoping, well, like I don't know, I was pretty satisfied with the ending. I was always kind of hoping for more Metal Gear Solid in some regard. We did eventually get like Peace Walker or whatever, which ended up being pretty good, but like not necessarily what I was really expecting back then. And eventually we ended up getting Metal Gear Solid 5, which is good but disappointing in some aspects. And it was definitely the game that we all kind of had wanted after Metal Gear Solid 4 there, I guess. Like gameplay wise, like it's the natural evolution of the series that way. But it also kind of has the Metal Gear Rising problem of like expanding upon a story that really didn't need to be expanded upon, but we're not talking about 5. My point is that at the time this was kind of going to be the last Metal Gear game or whatever, so that just kind of didn't sit right with us. I think Peace Walker was already out at this point, actually, because it was not like 2012, or this is 2013, so yeah, like this was gonna kind of be the last Metal Gear game, which was just didn't sit right with us at the time. I remember we got it because there was like a Zone of the Enders demo on it or whatever. No, is that why we got it? I think we just got it because it was Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. Like my friend got it, but I didn't buy it until like way later. And I ended up selling it back. I only bought it for like $4, like and then I ended up selling it back because like I just I, I don't know. I just got swept up in like thinking about it like, oh, this game's like, I heard it's not that great, and Butcher's Metal Gear Solid 4 story or whatever, and then I ended up picking it up again as a free game because when you buy 5 games, you get your 6th game free at this free play. Um, so I ended up picking it up just as a free game again. So I got this game for free. Um, and for free, yeah, it was a pretty fun experience. I would have even paid $4 or $5 for it. No big deal. I paid $10 for it. I think it was definitely worth that. So, I mean, yeah, I definitely feel like I got my money's worth of my experience out of the game after all this time. And I was kind of wrong, obviously, about the game. And it ended up being a pretty good game. But I just wasn't in the right mindset to kind of play it back then. Sort of like Mario 3D World. You know, it was a different time. You know, different time, different stuff going on, different views as gamers or whatever. And, yeah, so that's all. I just wanted to kind of give my little history there with the game. But you know, now that I've played it, you know, and then my friend played it, and it was just this big meme for years about Nano Machine Son and all this shit. And it's like that line's just one line. It's like at the end of the game or whatever. So you know, whatever. That's fine. You know, but just like I kept hearing about this game for years and years, and he's like, oh, you should play it, and I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, maybe I'll get to it sometime. Then when I found out it was kind of a short game, I'm like, you know what, I'll just do it. I'm willing to give it a shot, kind of thing, and it ended up being pretty good. So other than that, like, you've been listening to the music this whole time. It's obviously pretty ridiculous. It's a bunch of like metal and rock songs to like really get you pumped up for slicing guys up or whatever. And you know, it's fine. I don't remember barely any of the lyrics. It just all kind of blends together for me, but it's definitely like a pretty competent soundtrack. It's pretty rockin', you know, it definitely gets you in the right mindset. Graphically, the game looks pretty good. I like how the UI or whatever, like, kind of looks like Metal Gear Solid 4. I appreciate that, you know, because I really like Metal Gear Solid 4, so it was kind of cool how they did that. There's some gameplay things in here where it's like, they had the cardboard boxes, but they were very useless the whole time. The whole stealth elements weren't super well implemented. Like, the whole game originally was going to be kind of a stealth game, but they couldn't really implement that, so it became this game instead. It's just more of an action game when Platinum Games got their hands on it, so... You okay? So yeah, anyway. So yeah, stuff like the cardboard boxes and stuff. They had like a rocket launcher and stuff. I never used that shit. You know, I would always just go up and slice whatever it was up, and even the helicopters and stuff. I just jump up there and slice it up, because that's what you want to do in this game. I was talking about side weapons there for a second. I got totally sidetracked, but the bosses all give you a side weapon. The first one gives you like a whip or like a pole arm or something. I just used that the whole game basically because it was one of the better ones. There's a lot of upgrades that you can do. You get more health and more meter. You have this meter that like you can go into Jack the Ripper mode or whatever. You know, like Raiden's other persona where he's like a killer. It didn't really do much. It's more about the story. It felt more like a story thing than like a gameplay thing. Just kind of depletes your whole meter. The meter is more, it's how you go into your cut time, like, you know, your slow down to cut the enemy up kind of time. You have like a meter for that. So yeah, there's that. But didn't really use any of the other boss weapons. But there's like, yeah, so, but you could upgrade all of that stuff, and that's pretty cool. You know, a bunch of upgrades based on how well you do. There's a system where like when you're cutting guys up, like you can grab this thing out of them if you grab it at the right time, or if you cut them up at the right time, kind of thing. That like restores your health and your meter there, and also gives you like more BP and stuff. Some guys have like, you cut off their left hand or something, and like you get a bonus for that, or something to that effect. I don't know how that worked. I don't know if it was just like certain guys or whatever. But I tried to like go in and take down all the guys that I could so I could get as much points to upgrade as possible. So yeah, there's that. And then so yeah, that's pretty much all the gameplay stuff. I thought it was cool how they set up this like pretty like formidable foe in like the first chapter, and then you fight him like in the sixth chapter or whatever, and he's like, you know, kind of like a samurai. Like you kind of build yourself up to that level of like taking him on or whatever, which is pretty cool. I like that. You know, it's a nice little progression of elements there or whatnot. So, and then of course the only way to top that is to fight a giant Metal Gear that's more ridiculous than any other Metal Gear ever, and slice it up and whatever. And then, you know, you have to fight a guy who's basically invincible or whatever. So that's interesting. Like, I don't know. That's just how they gotta elevate this shit, you know? Just get it far up. But it was all pretty cool. But yeah, like, it's a good game. It's pretty competent. It does all of the elements that it's trying to do properly. And doesn't overstay its welcome. It's like a, you know, 5-7 hour game, something like that. There's only 7 chapters, so, you know, that's cool. It's a lot of VR missions and stuff that you can, like, find throughout the levels or whatever. I didn't do most of those, but that's something, I guess, if you want, like, extra content. So, you know, I'd recommend the game. It's pretty good to action fans, especially. To Metal Gear fans, you know, go in with a cautious mind. Don't think it's gonna, like, connect to the story super well. I like really flesh out Raiden's character, because it really kind of doesn't. But you know, it does all right for what it does. But just don't expect, you know, an extension of the Metal Gear story to like it's not on that level of Kojima storytelling, you know. So it's just a fun, silly kind of game that's like an extra game after Metal Gear Solid 4. So, but yeah, like, it's a good game though, and I you know, gameplay's good, the graphics are good, the music's pretty good. The weakest element is the story. So I mean, but it's silly and it knows that it wants to be silly, so that's what it is, and that's fine. You know, I'd rather them go all in on that than like half-heartedly like I don't know if people would like this kind of thing. You know, they just went for it. You know, and I gotta respect that. So, I'm gonna give it just like a flat 8 out of 10 because my friends seem to not like point numbers on the end of things, so I'm just giving it an 8. I'm not changing the point system, by the way. That's just a little jab at them there, because it's funny. And yeah, out of 10, that's funny too, right? So yeah, I don't know. That's really all I have to say about the game. It's a pretty good game. I definitely enjoyed it and I had a good time with it, and that's pretty much it. So this has been JZNES saying keep it classic, stick around for more reviews, underrated games, and I'll see you guys in the next one. JZ out.